Have you ever felt that strange emptiness right after getting what you thought you wanted most? The promotion you worked for, the new phone you saved up for, the admiration you secretly craved. When it finally arrives, you smile, you nod, and for a fleeting moment, the world seems right. Yet, only days later, something quiet begins to echo inside you. Is this all there is? That echo follows you like a shadow. No matter how far you run, it keeps whispering, more, something more. You live in a world built to satisfy your desires instantly. Food at the tap of a screen, endless scrolling for connection, algorithms predicting what you want before you know it yourself. Everything around you screams that happiness is just one purchase, one experience, one achievement away. Yet why, with so much abundance, do you sometimes feel more restless than ever? Imagine standing on a mountaintop after years of climbing, the view breathtaking, the air thin and pure. And yet, instead of peace, you feel a sudden urge to look for an even higher peak. Imagine finishing a race, only to discover a longer, harder one begins at the finish line. Why does satisfaction slip through your fingers like water, no matter how tightly you grasp it? You tell yourself that next time it will be different, when you earn more, love deeper, become stronger, travel farther. But each next time dissolves into another not enough. What if this isn't a personal flaw at all? What if the hunger you feel is not greed, but a built-in feature of being human? Aristotle once wrote that all human beings by nature desire to know. He saw this endless longing not just as curiosity, but as the heartbeat of life itself. Nietzsche, centuries later, would call it the will to power, a force that drives you to create, to struggle, to transcend. Are you a victim of this restless force, or are you its living expression? Look closely at your days. You wake, you work, you strive, you scroll, you consume, you dream. There are flashes of contentment, but they fade like sparks. Why does joy have an expiration date? Why does your mind keep moving the goalposts just when you think you've scored? Why can't you simply arrive? This is not just your personal battle. It's the silent rhythm of civilization. Empires rise on promises of more. Religions flourish on visions of something beyond. Economies depend on your dissatisfaction to keep spinning. And inside you, the same mechanism whirs an engine of desire that never rests. But is there another way to understand this? Could your dissatisfaction be pointing not to a curse, but to a clue? A doorway into a deeper kind of life? Could it be that your restlessness is not an error, but a signal? In the next chapter, you'll step beneath the surface of your own mind to see the hidden architecture of this endless hunger, the psychological and philosophical roots that have shaped not only your desires, but the entire world you live in. Only by descending into that depth can you begin to see the shape of the trap and perhaps glimpse the possibility of freedom. You stand at the edge of that question, feeling the echo of your own restlessness. Why is satisfaction so slippery? Why does the glow of victory dim so quickly? If you could peer behind the curtain of your own mind, you would see a mechanism so old and so silent that it had become invisible. You were born into it. It shaped your earliest desires, your habits of thought, even the meaning of the word enough. Psychologists call part of it the hedonic treadmill. Your brain evolved to adapt quickly to new circumstances, pleasures, possessions, even achievements. This adaptation kept your ancestors alert and striving. If an early human felt permanently satisfied after one successful hunt, they would stop preparing for the next one. The restless mind ensured survival. But in your world of abundance, that same mechanism drives you into an endless cycle of craving and adaptation, like running on a treadmill that never stops. Aristotle noticed something similar long before neuroscience. He distinguished between pleasures that are fleeting and the deeper pursuit of eudaimonia, flourishing life lived in harmony with your highest capacities. Temporary satisfactions are like shadows of that deeper fulfillment. They mimic it, but they don't last. When you seek happiness in possessions or status alone, you are chasing shadows, and shadows vanish the moment you try to grasp them. Nietzsche took a different angle. He believed that your dissatisfaction is not a mistake, but the very energy of life, the will to power. This will is not just the urge for domination. It's the impulse to expand, to grow, to transform yourself and your world. From this view, your restlessness is not a defect, but a spark. Without it, you would stagnate. One must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star, he wrote. In your moments of dissatisfaction, can you feel that chaos dangerous, but also alive? Even modern psychology echoes these ancient intuitions. Behavioral economists describe how your brain is wired for loss aversion. You feel losses more intensely than gains. That bias keeps you scanning for what you don't have, what you might lose, what you must protect. Add to this the dopamine system, a chemical loop that fires more in anticipation of reward than in the reward itself. You feel a surge while chasing something, but as soon as you catch it, the surge fades. This is why scrolling feels addictive, why achievements feel anticlimactic, why longing is often more powerful than possession. And society knows how to play this instrument. Advertising whispers, not just buy this, but become this. Social media feeds you curated images of lives always slightly better than yours. Comparison becomes a constant background noise. The philosopher Schopenhauer once wrote, "Wealth is like sea water. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. In your feed, you drink endlessly images, likes, news, and your thirst deepens instead of quenches." This is the hidden problem. The mechanism of dissatisfaction is both internal and external. Inside you, ancient circuitry drives you to keep reaching. Outside you, entire systems exploit that drive, shaping your desires to serve their own ends. You are not just chasing. You are being guided, nudged, manipulated. The hunger you feel may be yours, but its objects have been chosen for you. If you pause and look back at your own life, you might see patterns. The toy you wanted as a child, the friendship you longed for in school, the car, the job, the ideal partner, each desire felt ultimate in its time. Yet once attained, each became ordinary, and a new horizon appeared. This is not failure. This is design. But design for what? Survival? Growth? Control? Here lies the tension. Aristotle whispers that your longing can be redirected toward a higher kind of fulfillment. Nietzsche shouts that your longing is power itself, the fire of creation. Meanwhile, modern culture tells you your longing will end if you just consume the right thing. Three voices, three paths, but which one do you follow? As you sit with these questions, you begin to sense a deeper unease. If your very sense of self is built on longing, what happens when the longing stops? Would you feel peace or emptiness? If the treadmill suddenly halted, would you step off it? Or would you panic at the stillness? This is the hidden root of the problem. You are not only a being who wants, but a being who is built by wanting. Your desires sculpt your identity, your narrative of self. To question them feels like questioning who you are. And yet, somewhere beneath that machinery, a different possibility stirs an inkling that you are more than the sum of your cravings. In the next section, you'll see how this invisible engine doesn't just shape your inner life, but builds the world around you. The unseen consequences of a humanity always running, always reaching, always restless. You've glimpsed the engine inside you, the ancient circuitry, the cultural manipulation, the insatiable pulse of desire. But now, look outward. This is not just a private struggle. It is the silent architecture of an entire civilization. Your individual treadmill merges with millions of others, creating a vast, humming machinery. You think you're running alone, but you are part of a crowd, moving in synchrony, feeding the same engine. Cities glow at night like circuits on a motherboard. Billboards flicker promises you didn't ask for. Notifications drip feed your attention like a controlled experiment. Each of these is a consequence of the same restless energy. A society built on perpetual dissatisfaction must keep inventing new wants, new fears, new next things. It can't afford your contentment. Content people do not buy, scroll, compare, compete. Think of the economy. Endless growth, quarterly profits, constant innovation. Beneath the spreadsheets and slogans lies a simple formula: desire must always outpace fulfillment. If fulfillment ever caught up, the machine would stutter. In a sense, your dissatisfaction isn't just predicted. It's required. Your restlessness is fuel. Without it, whole industries vanish, entire hierarchies collapse. And so you inherit a world where even your deepest experiences are monetized. Meditation apps promise calm while subtly nudging you toward premium tiers. Dating apps offer love but gamify attraction, turning intimacy into a marketplace. News feeds inflame outrage because outrage keeps you clicking. This is the hedonic treadmill on a planetary scale, a civilization addicted to its own momentum. But the consequences are not only economic, they're psychological and spiritual. When your attention is fragmented by constant stimuli, your inner world begins to mirror the noise. You check your phone between breaths. Your thoughts jump like skipping stones. You start to confuse stimulation with meaning, novelty with growth, quantity with quality. The philosopher Pascal once wrote, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." In your world, that room is filled with glowing screens, and silence feels almost unbearable. Cognitive science adds another layer. Your brain's reward system, designed for scarcity, is bombarded by artificial abundance, likes, alerts, endless choice. This hijacks the dopaminergic loop, making ordinary life feel dull, even depressing. You become like a person who has eaten too much sugar. Everything else tastes bland. As a result, true fulfillment, the slow, deep satisfaction of effort, virtue, connection can seem invisible next to the flash of instant rewards. There's also a moral consequence. When a society normalizes constant craving, it subtly teaches that value lies in consumption rather than character, in appearance rather than substance. Comparison becomes not an occasional reflex, but a permanent state. You measure your worth by metrics you never chose: followers, income, beauty standards, milestones. And because the goalposts move, your self-worth trembles. Even relationships are not immune. If you are trained to always seek more, you may struggle to rest inside commitment, to savor imperfection, to stay when novelty fades. Partners become another item on the treadmill of expectation. Maybe there's someone better. The voice whispers, the same voice that once whispered. Maybe there's something better. Step back and you see an unsettling picture. This restlessness has built cathedrals and smartphones, cured diseases and mapped galaxies. It is the force of progress, yes, but also the root of burnout, ecological collapse, and a quiet epidemic of meaninglessness. The same drive that creates can also consume. Like fire, it warms and destroys. And here is the strangest consequence of all. Your dissatisfaction may be the very reason you cannot see any of this clearly. The machine keeps you moving so fast, you rarely pause to ask where it's going. The treadmill hums, your eyes are fixed on the next horizon, and the question, why, flickers only briefly before another notification steals your gaze. But in the pauses between your breaths, in those rare moments of stillness, you may sense it. The life you're living might not be the life you truly want. This realization is both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because it threatens the story you've built about yourself. Liberating because it hints that you could step off the treadmill, or at least change how you walk upon it. The consequences are real, and they are deep. They shape your mind, your society, even the planet. Yet hidden within them is a paradoxical gift, the chance to see the mechanism clearly. And once you see it, you can begin to rebel not by running faster, but by turning inward and questioning the very premise of the race. In the next section, you'll enter that rebellion, the moment when you dare to defy the momentum, challenge the old assumptions, and imagine a life not built on endless hunger, but on something far more radical: self-chosen values and inner sovereignty. You've seen the mechanism. You've felt its pull. You've traced its roots back through evolution, philosophy, and culture. And now, for the first time, you're standing still on the treadmill. The belt still whirs beneath your feet, but you're no longer running. You're watching. Something inside you asks, what if I don't have to move this way anymore? This is the birth of rebellion, not the loud, destructive kind, but the quiet, subversive rebellion of seeing clearly. It begins with a simple, shocking realization. The voice that says more is not you. It's a habit, a loop, a story. You have mistaken it for your own heartbeat, but it's just noise. And once you see that, a space opens, a space where choice can happen. Here, Aristotle's whisper grows louder. He never promised that pleasure would satisfy you. He warned that it wouldn't. What he offered instead was a different kind of fulfillment: eudaimonia, the flourishing of a life lived in accordance with your highest potentials: reason, virtue, purpose. This is not a fleeting high, but a steady flame. It asks not, what do I want next? But who am I becoming? Imagine orienting your life not toward the next reward, but toward a daily practice of becoming. You wake up, and instead of checking your notifications, you ask, what virtue can I live today? What skill, what relationship, what courage can I cultivate? Suddenly, your energy is not scattered across 1,000 cravings, but gathered like sunlight through a lens. You stop being a consumer of life and start being a craftsman of it. Nietzsche, too, becomes your unlikely ally. He didn't tell you to extinguish your dissatisfaction. He told you to transform it. The will to power is not a command to dominate others, but to create, to overcome yourself, to turn chaos into form. Become who you are, he urged. In this rebellion, your restlessness ceases to be a leash and becomes a tool. You take the same force that once drove you to scroll, to shop, to compare, and you channel it into art, into study, into building a soul. This rebellion is radical because it overturns the logic of your culture. A system built on endless craving cannot easily profit from someone who is quietly content and fiercely self-directed. When you choose purpose over novelty, depth over quantity, you disrupt the circuit. The treadmill loses its hold. And yet, this is not a withdrawal from life, but a deeper entry into it. You still desire, but your desires are chosen, not implanted. You still strive, but for goals that express your values, not your reflexes. You still consume, but with awareness. Even your pleasures become richer when they are not frantic, but intentional. A meal savored, a conversation undistracted, a small success celebrated without needing it to prove your worth. To practice this rebellion, you begin with small acts of sovereignty. You leave your phone in another room. You walk without headphones. You write down your real priorities instead of letting algorithms choose them. You ask yourself before each pursuit, will this make me more whole or just more distracted? Each yes and no builds a new identity. History offers examples of such rebels. The Stoics of ancient Rome, Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, lived amid wealth and power, but practiced self-discipline, gratitude, and focus. They refused to let externals dictate their inner state. They weren't ascetics hiding from the world. They were active leaders, thinkers, builders. Their rebellion was interior, and it gave them a freedom no emperor could touch. You might think this path is joyless, but it's the opposite. When you're no longer enslaved by novelty, the ordinary becomes luminous. A sunrise stops being content for a story and becomes an encounter with reality. Work stops being a grind for status and becomes an expression of skill. Relationships stop being auditions and become places to give and receive presents. There will still be moments of restlessness. How could there not be? But instead of fearing or feeding it, you'll learn to listen to it. Sometimes it's a signal that you're drifting from your values. Other times it's raw creative energy asking for form. Either way, you're no longer running blindly. You're steering. This is the rebellion, not to escape your humanity, but to reclaim it. To refuse the cheap satisfactions so you can cultivate the deep ones. To stop outsourcing your desires and start authoring them. To realize that the treadmill can keep running under your feet, but you no longer have to be its prisoner. And as you live this way, something unexpected happens. The hunger that once felt like a curse begins to feel like a compass. You're no longer trying to silence it. You're learning to guide it. You discover that your dissatisfaction, properly understood, is not an enemy, but an invitation to grow, to create, to awaken. In the final section, you'll glimpse the ultimate truth behind this journey. A realization that reframes everything you've felt so far. A paradigm shift that turns the story of your dissatisfaction into something vast, strange, and liberating. You've slowed the treadmill. You've begun to choose your own steps. You've tasted the first flickers of sovereignty. But now a deeper question rises, one you might have sensed all along. If my longing is not a flaw but a feature, what is it pointing to? You sit with this question in the quiet you've made for yourself. No screens, no rush, only your breathing. At first it feels like emptiness, like withdrawal. But then, something subtle appears. The realization that your whole life, you've been searching for an endpoint, a place to arrive. Yet everything you've learned points to this. There is no final arrival. Not because the world is cruel, but because reality itself is alive, unfolding, never static. Aristotle's vision of eudaimonia was never a finish line. It was an activity, a way of living, a continual alignment with your highest capacities. Nietzsche's will to power was never about a single conquest, but about the endless process of self-overcoming, of becoming. Even the neuroscientists who describe the hedonic treadmill reveal an implicit truth. The brain is wired for movement, not for stillness. You are not a being who has fulfillment. You are a being who practices it. This is the paradigm shift. To see that the point of your dissatisfaction is not to be erased, but to be understood. Your longing is not a hole to be filled, but a signal that you are alive, conscious, capable of growth. When you stop expecting satisfaction to be permanent, it ceases to disappoint you. When you stop treating restlessness as an enemy, it transforms into energy. You begin to see your desires differently. They are not commands. They are invitations. Some you accept, some you decline, but you are no longer defined by them. You realize you are not the craving. You are the awareness that notices the craving. And in that awareness, there is a spaciousness that no algorithm can monetize. This insight doesn't end your striving, it transfigures it. Instead of chasing the next peak to escape your present, you climb because climbing is your nature. Instead of working for applause, you work to express what is uniquely yours to give. Instead of seeking love to complete you, you share love because you're already whole enough to give it. Here, Nietzsche's dancing star comes into focus. Chaos still stirs in you, but now it's a creative chaos. It no longer drives you blindly. It moves you like a rhythm, like music. Aristotle's steady flame meets Nietzsche's wild spark, and together they illuminate a life that is not about escape from dissatisfaction, but about the art of shaping it. Modern society may still hum around you with its promises of more. The treadmill may still run. But in your center, there is a stillness that is not stagnation, but presence. From that stillness, you can engage with the world without being consumed by it. You can buy without believing. You can scroll without forgetting who you are. You can achieve without needing achievement to define you. And then something almost paradoxical happens. In accepting that there is no final enough, you begin to experience moments that feel profoundly enough ordinary. Moments that once went unnoticed. The taste of water, the weight of a friend's hand, the quiet satisfaction of a day lived in alignment with your values. These are not permanent states, but they are real, and they accumulate into a life that feels grounded, meaningful, alive. The ultimate truth is not an escape from humanity, but a fuller embrace of it. You are both the hunger and the awareness of the hunger, both the striving and the stillness. To live well is not to end the cycle, but to dance within it consciously, to turn what was once a treadmill into a path of your own making. Now, when the old whisper returns, more, you can smile at it. You can thank it for its energy, its push, its reminder that you're alive. And then you can choose sometimes to follow it, sometimes to let it pass. Either way, you are no longer a captive. The camera of your imagination pulls back now, rising above your life. You see a city full of restless people, lights glowing, screens flickering, hearts beating. You see your own figure among them, not separate but awake, moving with intention. The voiceover fades to a whisper. You were never meant to be content in the way you imagined. You were meant to be alive, aware, growing, creating. And in that realization, the search doesn't end, it changes. It becomes less like a chase and more like a journey. You're no longer running from emptiness. You're walking toward depth. The horizon is still there, but it no longer taunts you. It invites you. This is where the story leaves you, not with closure, but with a call. A call to live with your eyes open, to question the next desire before you chase it, to shape your longing into creation instead of consumption, and to discover, again and again, that the meaning you've been searching for has been arising inside you all along.